2017. For those that have not had the pleasure of attending one of our meetings before, let me do a brief explanation of how they work. First of all, if you could silence your cell phones, you'd greatly appreciate that so it doesn't ring during our meeting. Second of all, once we call the roll and approve the minutes from the last meeting, city staff will present on each item. When they present on an item, it's first opened up to the Plan Commission for technical questions. Once our technical questions are done, we open it up to the public for commentary and questions. And if you have anything to say, please feel free to do so, and we'd ask that you stand up at the microphone and state your name and address for the minutes. And we may have questions for you, and then once you have said your piece, go ahead and sit down, and we'll just go through as many people as want to speak. Once the public commentary is done, we bring it back to the commission for discussion and a vote. With that, let us call the roll.
David Borsak.
Present.
Ed Bowen. Jeffrey Tomes.
Here.
Thomas Freitag.
Here.
John Hintz.
Here.
Steve Cummings. Kathleen Propp.
Here.
John Kiefer.
Here.
Robert Weigert.
Here.
Michael Ford.
All right, moving on to approval of the meetings from September 19th. Do we have any additions, corrections, deletions to those minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
Comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, one abstention. All right, let's go on to item number 1, accept lintel easement at 551 to 593 Oak Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The city of Oshkosh is requesting acceptance of a lintel easement to allow for restoration and installation of a historical lintel at 551 through 593 Oak Street. The subject property is 1.1 acres in size. It is located on the southwest corner of East Parkway Avenue and Oak Street, and it is developed with 8 condominium units and associated parking areas. The Oshkosh Landmarks Commission, along with city staff and Menominee South Neighborhood, have initiated a project to extract, restore, and install the old stone marker for the former Longfellow School to be displayed at the subject site. The historical lintel is about 30 inches wide by 96 inches long by 5 to 6 inches thick. It is currently located along Grove Street on the parcel immediately west of the subject site. The petitioner is requesting acceptance of a 15-foot by 15-foot easement at the northwest corner of the subject site for display of the historical lintel. Planning staff does not have any concerns with the proposed easement and feels that the display of the lintel will serve to beautify the neighborhood and preserve its history. The Department of Public Works will work with the property owner to have the appropriate easement documents signed and recorded with the Winnebago County Register of Deeds. And here's pictures of the lintel. And the picture on the right is kind of a rendering of what it will look like when it's displayed.
Just a quick note, DPW is not actually working on that one. We're working on the easement documents itself.
And staff recommends approval of the acceptance of the proposed lintel easement as requested.
All right, any technical questions from the commission? Jeffrey?
Is there any feedback from the owner of the property?
Why don't we bring Stephen up? The planner's been working on it. Stephen, why don't you come on down to the table here? I don't think you guys have met Stephen yet.
Nope.
Well,
Welcome.
You got a revolving door down there.
we do have a revolving door lately. This is Stephen. Stephen's been with us since February. Stephen Wiley. He joins us from Masters in Urban Planning and Architecture, which has really helped us for some of our design standard stuff, and he's been working on that. And he's been working a lot on this with sustainability, landmarks, those things. That's where he's working right now. He'll transition in Plan Commission at some point, but he's working with those committees right now, and he's been working on this lintel project. So Stephen can answer some of your questions.
So as Darren mentioned, I am Stephen, and I am now the staff liaison for the Landmarks Commission, excuse me. And yes, we have been working with the property owner at the condominiums there, and the condo president has agreed to offer this easement to us. So we have been talking to Dave Albing up there. Kurt Kepler owns the site where the lintel is currently, and he has offered to let us have the lintel. So we have been in discussions with both of the property owners.
Other technical questions? All right, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Once, twice, 3 times, back to the commission.
Motion to approve. Second.
Discussion on the motion, seeing none, call the roll, please.
Thanks.
Bowen.
Aye.
Tomes.
Aye.
Hintz.
Aye.
Propp.
Aye.
Kiefer.
Aye.
Weigert.
Aye.
Borsak.
Aye.
and Foytek.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Those will move to the next.
All right, moving on to item number 2, extraterritorial two-lot land division and certified survey map at 5,000 Block County Road A in the town of Oshkosh.
Thank you. The petitioner is requesting a two-lot land division from one existing 14.05 acre parcel. The proposed sizes are Lot 1 to be 7.6 acres and Lot 2 to be about 6.44 acres. The subject site consists of one parcel. It is located on the northwest side of County Road A in the town of Oshkosh, about 0.3 miles north of Oshkosh city limits. The site is currently being used for agricultural purposes, and the surrounding area consists of mostly agricultural uses along with sporadic single-family uses. The purpose of the land division is to separate the existing agricultural lot to provide the owner with the ability to sell the newly created lots, but currently there is no immediate plans for sale or development of the lots. The proposed land division will not alter the existing land use patterns in the area and is consistent with the city's 10 and 20-year comprehensive plan land use recommendations. Staff has no concerns with the proposed lot layout or size, as they are similar to other parcels in the immediate vicinity. The Department of Public Works has reviewed the proposed two-lot land division and did not have any concerns. And here is the proposed CSM. And staff recommends approval of the two-lot extraterritorial land division as proposed.
All right, thank you. Any technical questions? We've seen these before. Jeff?
Go back to the aerial. So, lot 2 is irregular, and if that was sold off versus lot 1, is there enough space along the road to provide egress, ingress? Are we gonna cause any problems because of that as you go back, especially on the pinch part on the southwest side, you know, where it gets pinched up there by lot 1? You wouldn't be able to get to lot 2, I would think, because of setback rules. So is there enough room on the other side to put an egress ingress without causing any issues? If we approve this division?
Ingress and egress will be determined by the county's, or by the county highway department and their access control as well as extraterritorial, correct, yes. So the local, it's town of Oshkosh, right?
Yeah.
Town of Oshkosh has their own zoning ordinance, so their setbacks, et cetera, will apply. You can see that there is, I don't know what the intended use of the lot is, but you can see both of those kind of flags that are coming out there. You could access from both those areas. Stephen?
I believe there's a note on the CSM that says access is restricted to the
Very good.
common drive.
Access is
I mean,
on,
Right here. Brian, go to the CSM.
right here,
Yeah,
to both lot 1 and 2?
yeah, for sure.
There's a shared driveway on the CSM, if you look at the lot lines between lot 1 and 2.
So do we have to do anything to indicate that there needs to be some access?
No, because that would be a town zoning requirement, and would
Okay.
affect town.
So the town would deal with that? Right. Gotcha.
any other technical questions? Seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today?
Only if there's a landowner, so.
Okay.
only if there-
Okay, back to the commission.
To approve? Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Bowen. Tomes.
Aye.
Hintz.
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Kiefer.
Aye.
Weigert.
Aye.
Borsek.
Aye.
Foytek.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
All right, item number 3 has been withdrawn from the agenda. Moving on to item number 4, final plat for Bristol Square subdivision.
Thank you.
The applicants is requesting approval of a 17-lot land division, primarily used for mixed residential purposes. The 52-acre site is located on the Jackson Street corridor, way on the city's north side. It's in a mixed-use area with the Town of Oshkosh subdivision, Jackson Heights subdivision immediately to the south. There we go. That's Jackson Heights subdivision down here. The County Sheriff's Office and Recycling Center to the north of the property, the State Correctional Facility to the west, and former landfill site to the northwest. The property has an MR12 PD multiple family residential district with a planned development overlay zoning, which supports all of the proposed residential uses. In April of 2015, the Common Council approved with conditions the preliminary plat for Bristol Square, and that was followed by a planned development approval by the Common Council in August of 2015. Okay, next slide is the aerial shot of the site. The parcel currently contains two different parcels, separated by kind of a unique property line. This is the third rendition for development for this area. There were two preliminary plats that were approved, and one of them was followed by a certified survey map, which created a right-of-way along this lot line here, and then has since been vacated. The proposed use of the property, or not the use, the layout of the property. Okay, this is a look at the plat. It's a mix of 9 proposed single-family lots, 5 two-family lots, and 1 large parcel for a multifamily development. The single-family lots are located way in the southeast corner along the north line of Jackson Heights subdivision. Then across the street is 5 two-family lots. The preliminary plat had 4 originally, so they did add 1 additional two-family lot. And then a large lot, approximately 40 acres in size, consisting of proposed multifamily development on the eastern half, and then the western half will be remain undeveloped. The plat also has two larger outlots. Lot 1, located south centrally of the the subdivision. The outlot's almost entirely wetlands, which makes it virtually undevelopable. And then a second outlot on the east side of the proposed roadway, which is, I'll get to it later, but this is proposed to be dedicated as parkland to the city. The plat's layout generally follows the approved layout from the preliminary plat, besides the additional two-family lot and some minor dimensional changes, but still complies with the zoning ordinance. The roadway dedication consists of a street tentatively called Gabbard Field Drive, which is going to come off of Jackson Street and kind of loop up to the north and around and then down south. It's planned sometime in the future. It'll connect to Western Drive to the south, which is part of Jackson Heights subdivision. Currently, this section of Western Drive is not improved. It's unimproved, I guess. There's no physical road there, but the right-of-way has been dedicated. There's no timeline on when this section would be improved. It's pretty unlikely until it either incorporates into the city of Oshkosh, or if the city and town can come to some kind of agreement to have that section paved. Due to that, the petitioner, we requested to grant to the city a temporary cul-de-sac easement, which will be used for a turnaround for vehicles. And with the proposed parkland being on the far end of the development, with no other access to get to the park, this entire section of roadway will be required to be constructed along with the rest of the plat. With parkland dedication, developers have 2 options, either dedication of land or fee in lieu of parkland dedication, based on the number counts of the number of parcels and unit quantity. 130,000 square feet of parkland dedication would be required, or as an option, they can provide a parkland dedication fee, which would amount to $50,000. The developer is proposing to dedicate 140,000 square foot piece of property, which is this outlot 2 over here, instead of the financial contribution. The Parks Director has said that he would be in support of the dedication, but still needs to go to the Parks Advisory, or I'm sorry, the Advisory Park Board to determine if the proposed dedication is appropriate. The Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan identifies a need for a neighborhood park in this area, somewhere between County Road Y and Snell Road, so this dedication would meet that need. Let's see, go to the next slide. I have a close-up view of the single-family and two-family developments, and then the two outlots. Outlot 2, which is going to be the park dedication, has an active sanitary sewer which runs from the south up to the north and kind of zigzags up and around. And there's a second unused sanitary easement which was dedicated at the time of one of the previously approved plats. The Parks Director had concerns that this unused easement would be a hindrance because no permanent structures would be allowed to be placed over that easement. So staff is recommending a condition that the unneeded portion of the second unused easement be released to free up more usable space for park development. Water is going to be obtained from Jackson Street. No extension of utilities will be required up to the site, just the extension of utilities to service the internal portions of the site. And as I previously mentioned, there is active sanitary sewer available to the site as well. Public Works did note that it appears that the existing sanitary sewer mains appears to be constructed outside of the granted sanitary sewer easements, so the locations need to be verified, and if necessary, the easements may need to be reworked. The stormwater management plan and drainage plans have been submitted and are currently undergoing review by the Department of Public Works. The city's police and fire departments and the Oshkosh Area School District were made aware of the proposed plat and have not indicated any problems related to service. A street lighting plan has not been submitted, but will be required and be approved by the Electric Division and the Department of Public Works. And then lastly, a terrace tree plan was submitted. Right there. It's been submitted, but will not be fully reviewed until after approval of the stormwater drainage plan and grading plan and the street lighting plan to ensure that there won't be any interference with the placement of utilities. The internal review does indicate that the plan does meet code for the number of trees required and spacing between the trees. And that is it. So, staff is recommending approval of the Bristol Square subdivision with 4 conditions. That number 1, a street lighting plan be submitted and approved by the Electric Division and the Department of Public Works. Submitted tree plan will be reviewed by the Forestry and Departments of Community Development and Public Works after approval of the stormwater and lighting plans. Parkland dedication of Outlot 2 is accepted by the Advisory Parks Board, and if they do not recommend acceptance, payment in lieu of dedication will be required, and a portion of the unneeded eastern sanitary easement shall be released as approved by the Department of Public Works.
All right, thank you, sir. Technical questions, let's start with Mr. Borsick.
Can you go back to the completed? Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Is there going to be, in the area to the north, where's the access for that? What is the roadway access?
There's, well, the primary ones, of course, the street coming in off of Jackson Street, and then there's a driveway here and a driveway here.
So everything is gonna go off to this new proposed single
Correct.
street?
I did not mention, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation has jurisdiction to connections to Jackson Street or Highway 76. And as a requirement for this new opening, the opening to the south, which is Norton Avenue, has to be closed to allow this opening to be opened.
So all this development on a major highway would only have one one driveway access.
Not forever. Well, hopefully not forever.
Yeah.
No, but we're already seeing that there's a driveway access to the south that's gonna be closed.
No, a driveway access to, you mean that thing to west? Oh,
So north,
This,
at,
this intersection is planned to be closed.
okay, and then what goes down further to the south?
I didn't map down that far.
Right, right. The question long-term is
There we
that
go.
that doesn't, this seems to be a question we have been wrestling with the first time, the second time, the third time we've seen it, that we're gonna have this massive development with one street and then going through or the secondary going through a residential neighborhood, single-family residential neighborhood. Would that be correct?
If they build that
Eventually.
road.
Mhm.
If it gets built?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Jeffrey, your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to set the table.
Yeah, a couple
Thank you for that.
questions. We didn't, is this showing that it's gonna have sidewalks? Because I know we've talked about that in the past, that any development in the city, we're gonna require sidewalks in.
Yeah, it's a public street, so they will be required to place sidewalk.
All right. And then the second thing, I was wondering if we shouldn't put as a condition the cul-de-sac, because it's, you know, you say in here that, you know, they're gonna do a temporary cul-de-sac, because I was kind of surprised that fire wouldn't have said something, because a lot of times, you know, we've done things before where we put a cul-de-sac so they can have a turnaround. And so also that the guy doing the snowplow has the ability to turn around because he doesn't have anything. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't put that as a condition, because it did not make the, you know, the final plat.
Oh, no,
right?
it's on.
it's on here.
All right, so
Look,
the-
there's a temporary cul-de-sac shown
right
on
here.
there.
so we don't need to put that as as a condition?
And Steve, I had a
It'll be in the
question.
development
So,
agreement.
Mr. Godey's here, so if you.
I did want to jump back. The developer has made a request verbally that sidewalk not be installed along
Right here.
Outlot 1 on the south side, east, essentially looking to just to have the sidewalk go through the residential lots on the south side of the street and then have a crossing at approximately that location to get them across to the other side.
But then, Steve, how do they get to the dedicated park if there's no sidewalk?
The sidewalk would be on the
side of the park.
opposite side of the street that goes to the park. It would just not be on the Outlot 1. I believe that's Outlot 1 that's
Okay,
enclosed.
it won't be on the outlot 1 side, but it'll be on the lot 15 side.
Correct.
Correct.
All right, and you don't have a problem with the not putting as a condition the requirement for the cul-de-sac?
No, the cul-de-sac bulb is on the plats. This is
Other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? If you have anything to say, please step up to the mic, state your name and address. All right, nobody's jumping up.
To approve with the
Conditions?
conditions, yes.
All right. All right, second, any discussion?
No, that's fine.
Start with David and then Jeff.
Yeah, I have real problems with the intensity of the development and the iffiness of any secondary road. And I think until that can be firmed up, that, or that a condition be that they pay for the road connection into the subdivision to the south.
Well, we have an agreement with the town that we won't hook up to that, to Western until like 70% of that area is annexed. So we do have an agreement with the town in that regard. The other point, we've reviewed this as the preliminary plat. As a community, we've reviewed this as a preliminary plat, and we've approved the preliminary plat. So generally, when you approve a preliminary plat, you're essentially obligated to approve the final plat if it comes back in substantially the same form. We're not deviating, I don't think we're deviating from the approved preliminary plat anything substantially. The other thing, David, we've also approved plan development for the apartment development out there. So, I mean, we've put everything in, we've previously approved various aspects of this development as a Plan Commission as communities. Introducing some concerns that we discussed during those meetings. You know, we've had discussions with the fire department on there. The fire department, when I talked with Chief Franz, knowing that he wasn't overly concerned about the access issues on this site, knowing that at some point down the line, Western Drive will come through, hopefully at some point. I mean,
Jeff, and then Kathy?
I share David's concerns, Darren. I mean, you know, I understand we did that, but we also did talk about that intersection road being shut off and what access would have into those the existing homes and the new plat. And at the time, it was the understanding that that road would be connecting through to this road so that people have, even though it's not optimal to drive through, you know, the existing subdivision to the south, it was how they could get out and have access to Jackson Street through there's another access point to that subdivision.
And one off to Snell Drive.
So without that connection, it gives me some concern as to whenever that connection is going to happen. And you have all that traffic now coming out of one access point on Jackson, which is probably a 2-lane road going into Jackson.
Jeff's gonna pull the files, but I thought the most recent plan adjusted that based on our negotiations with the town. The town didn't want a connection into the southern Jackson Heights subdivision. That was my impression. We take a look at the history on that, but I thought that was the history of it. We pulled that connection away during our last review. You have the preliminary plat out here, Jim?
Well, while he's looking, let's go to Kathy. Yep.
What I think I heard you say is that we already approved a preliminary plat for the multiple family.
We approved the preliminary.
I mean, it looks like
for
that.
the overall subdivision. Jeff's
Yes, the
point-
overall subdivision. I'm talking about
Correct.
the multiple family units that are
Plan
pictured
development.
there.
Correct, the plan development.
So we've already approved that.
Correct.
Okay, I forgot that. Thank you.
Jeff's point about that connection, I remember years ago that we had that connection showing to the south that was gonna connect into Norton, but I thought that had gone away based on our discussions with the town and that agreement for them to get rid of this connection at Norton, that we weren't going to agree to connect to the south.
And I thought we were okay with getting rid of Norton because of this West Town was going to connect in, given then 2 points to be able to get out on Jackson, this new one, and the one that's in that current subdevelopment, although you would have to drive through that subdevelopment. And that's why we were okay with getting rid of the Norton, on Jackson Street.
On my recollection, so.
David?
Yeah, and I can't remember if there was another access onto Jackson or to Snell. I mean, I remember talking about,
There's one to both. There's one more connection to Jackson and one to Snell.
but,
You got no way of getting there.
Not for this development yet.
how many, what is the occupancy of the multifamily roughly? Do we have a sense?
140?
140 units?
Yeah.
And we figured 2 people, so you're looking at 280, 300 people going in, plus whatever's in the single family, going into a uncontrolled access highway. I don't know how we can, how we look at that as safe or good plan.
David, we've reviewed that.
I heard that, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if the
The state hasn't had an issue with us punching in road. Talked to the fire department, and from the emergency services perspective, there wasn't a huge concern on that either. I don't know You know, I can't counter what they're saying.
Anyone else? Ed?
Not for any reason, but I feel like I can chime in, I guess. I have less concern, frankly. I think limiting the number of driveways onto Jackson Street and I'd be more concerned if there were 2 driveways onto Jackson. Frankly, I don't like the Western Drive access point because I don't think we need to shuttle, number one, nobody's gonna use it. Number 2, shuttling traffic through, you know, an existing subdivision seems a little unnecessary, I guess. I have no concern about, I shouldn't say I have no concern. I have less of a concern about the single access point onto Jackson Street. I think if you look at areas, I can't think of exactly where, but there are some subdivisions on Blue Mound Drive in Brookfield. There's some subdivisions I can think of in Middleton, outside of Madison, where the planning folks are far less accommodating and far less friendly than our planning staff. And uncontrolled one choke point intersections are the order of the day, and it doesn't seem to be overly problematic. I'd be more concerned with more access points, creating more opportunity for conflict on Jackson. You know, the worst case scenario here is backup. If police and fire aren't concerned, worst case scenario is inconvenience. And that's a market choice, I think, that if you choose to live here, you may be inconvenienced. I don't know that that rises to the level of us having to break with what we've already looked at from a planning standpoint, but I get what you guys are saying. I have less of a practical concern about it, I guess.
Okay. Other comments, Jeff?
I guess where I'm getting at, and for the guys to look at is, I mean, obviously Jackson is a major thoroughfare coming into the city. It still has a lot of room for development going on there. So I'm thinking 10, 15 years down the road when more traffic is there because the development is coming there and you have one access point here that people are either turning left. I'm not so concerned about them turning right, but turning left onto that area unless we somehow change some of the, you know, and maybe it'll settle down because as you go out further to that, I don't know, Darren, is there a plan to have more controlled, probably street lights and stuff as the Jackson Street area gets further more and more developed? To try and calm some of the traffic coming down because of, you know, by the time you get up there, people are running pretty good down that road in terms of speed. And that's what I'd be concerned about. It's not so much, you know, if they did this development now, but I'm thinking 10, 15 years from now when more development happens on Jackson Street, more traffic is on Jackson Street, especially flowing, trying to get out to 41. And then the ability of a few hundred more cars coming out of this one point, being able to access whether they're mostly turning left, I'd be more concerned about than turning right. And that's what I was looking at is now how do we, 15 years from now, David, when you're still on the planning council, how then do we resolve that? And we have no good resolution to do that.
We gotta remember,
Don't.
the state controls access to Jackson. I mean, the
We
state,
can't do anything
Yeah,
else.
so.
the state
move on.
reviews, I mean, the state's reviewed this project ad nauseum over the years. I can tell you, I've been up in the.
But I'm not,
been up in the-
I'm not as concerned about that, as putting a second access point. I'm concerned about
Same thing.
diverting the traffic some way and they don't have control of that side of West Town and that, which isn't exactly the best alternative. I get that, you know, putting them through a subdivision does, you know, I get that. But it gives an alternative for, you know, potentially a few hundred cars a day coming in and out of that development.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Ready to call the roll here? Let's do it. Call roll.
They're done.
Yep.
Bowen,
Aye.
Holmes,
No.
Hintz,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Ford,
I'll abstain.
Borsec,
No.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried, 1, 2, 3, 6, 2, 1.
All right, moving on to item number 5. Zone change from SMU Suburban Mixed Use District to SMU PD Suburban Mixed Use District with Plan Development Overlay and approval for a general development plan and specific implementation plan for property located at 3001 South Washburn Street. That is a run-on sentence, sir. So,
Bit of a mouthful.
Yes.
But for as large of a text we have there, it's a relatively simple project.
let us hope.
They're looking to rezone the property from the current SMU district, SMU PD. We have a lot of other planned developments in that area. This is, of course, the outlet malls. They're proposing this change for, I guess, to help them today, but then also to look at the broader picture in the future. At today's point, they're looking to replace the existing electronic message center sign that is out there. They feel that it's a little bit outdated, and by the type of development and the other signs in the area, some of the additions that have been made on the 41 corridor, that they'd like to replace with a larger electronic message center. While talking through the process with them, there's also some needs of this property in the future with parking and some other issues that by placing the planned development on it today, we can maybe better address some of those long-term issues of the property. So this PUD hopefully address their immediate concern today, but then also provide an avenue that we can work on some of those other issues in the future. So we are generally surrounded by other commercial developments. We have a business park to the west, commercial kind of to the south and north, and obviously Highway 41 to the east. So this is the proposed new EMC sign. Oshkosh code only allows 100 square feet for an electronic message center. Applicants are proposing a sign that is 288 square feet. In order to go up to the 288 square feet within the planned development, they would need a base standard modification, and that is included in this request, and the staff is recommending approval of that base standard modification for the larger sign. In terms of access, landscaping, all of that, nothing else is changing. For today's request, the only change would be whether to allow them the larger electronic message center. So with that, the staff is recommending approval of both the zone change request to add the plan developments, then their general development plan and specific implementation plan, both of which only address the larger electronic message center, and the base standard modification, again, to allow that 288 square feet EMC.
All right, technical questions. Jeffrey?
I don't have a problem with the PD. How big a sign is at Bergstrom?
I believe it is larger than 288 square feet. I don't remember the exact number.
I know we had a lot of
The
discussion.
applicant could probably help.
Okay.
I can address that. So that's actually billboard size sign is 14.
He has to come to the podium.
Yeah, you have to come up here so we can't hear you.
Sure.
TV viewers cannot hear you.
My name's Chad Deffenbaugh. I'm with Watchfire Signs. Live in Appleton, Wisconsin. So that sign, I believe you guys approved for the PD. It's a 14 foot by 48 foot. So square footage wise, it's around 500 square feet.
672.
There you go. So what we've proposed today is a 12 foot by 24 foot. So you're right around 288 square feet.
Significantly
All
less.
right, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't any bigger than.
No, it is not.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
David?
Do we, at other times, put in frequency of changing of the signage as
So-
one of the requirements?
We don't necessarily have to. That is within our ordinance for electronic message centers. This sign will be subject to all of those requirements for lighting, changes per minute, all of that. We are not proposing any changes to that underlining zoning requirement.
Other technical questions? Back to Jeff.
And that includes the illumination that takes the illumination down at night?
Yep. Yeah, our ordinance has for electronic message centers a provision of dimming based on daylight.
Okay.
Other technical questions? All right, if not, anyone here to speak of this item today? Public? Okay, back to the commission for discussion and vote.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, let's call roll.
Bowen,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Crop,
All right.
Weigert,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Borsec,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Moving on to item number 6, residential design standards variance request for an addition with less than 25% of the front facade and less than 15% of the first 20 feet of a side facade devoted to window and door area at 1319 Bay Shore Drive.
Okay, so we have two requests for this design standard variances. This is right along the lake on Bay Shore Drive. They're requesting both the number of openings, or the percentage of openings on the north facade, and then what would be the east facade within the first 20 feet. So here's a picture of the front of the home. The addition that we're talking about would be going kind of on the left side of what we're looking at here. The applicant is proposing the request because the numbers we provided in the staff report and what they provided in their application show the current structure based on the architectural style of it is significantly below those 25% requirements. The applicant's intention is to maintain the existing style and design of this home with their addition, which is why they feel it is appropriate to match it and not have the, I should say excessive, in this case, openings. They want to match that architectural style. So here we have the site plan. As you can see, it's kind of on the, what would be the east side of the property. And we have some elevations. So on the top one is what you would see. That would kind of be from the back of the home against the lake. And then this bottom right picture would you see the front of the home looking from Bay Shore Drive. So it does have, you know, the window articulation, the doors and stuff that are very similar to what is on the existing structure. And then the bottom left picture is what you would see along the side of the home. So here is kind of what I talked about. On the kind of third line down, they show what the existing home has in terms of percentage of openings. On the front facade, they're at about 7.4, and on the side facade, they're at about 9.5. Obviously, significantly less than what our code requirements would be. The top has what is being proposed. So the proposed is about a 17%, which is significantly more than they have today, but it is not the 25% as code would required. Side facade is at about 9.3%, again, more than similar to what is there today, less than what the current code provision would be. Staff is recommending approval of the request to permit the reduction in window and door openings on the front facade and within the first 20 feet of the side facade for property located at Bay Shore Drive. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the addition will be consistent with the architectural style and should not adversely affect the structure's architectural design, neighborhood characteristics, or curb appeal of the block.
Thank you very much. Technical questions? All right, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Going once, going twice, 3 times back to the commission.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Bowen.
Aye.
Holmes.
Aye.
Ince.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Prop.
Aye.
Weigert.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Borsuk.
Abstain?
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 801.
All right, moving on to item number 7. Residential design standards variance request for an addition to exceed 50% of the existing principal structure's footprint at 1203 West 11th Avenue.
So we have another design standards request here for the size of the addition. Here we have the subject property as it sits today. You can kind of see the greater area. This property is located on the corner of 11th Avenue and Sawyer. It's a small single-family home that presently has no garage structure. Just kind of for reference as we go through talking about this, you can see there are a lot of other structures with detached garages, but then other structures, if I can find the mouse here, that do have some attached garages. So we kind of have a mixture in this area of structures with detached, structures with attached. Presently, the petition property has no garage. So the applicant is, I guess we'll start with some existing pictures of the home. We have a kind of a small square structure. The applicant is proposing to do an addition onto the rear and sides of the structure. So Here's kind of where the addition is. The addition would be to the kind of the southwest side of the existing home, and we'll get to a site plan that shows a little more detail here for you. So this is the existing home, kind of this area here. The applicant would like to add a 2-stall attached garage to the home, as well as then do a addition to add a kind of master suite. We've got the master bathroom, bedroom, walk-in closet, and then in conjunction with that, add a pantry for their existing kitchen. They're also doing some other remodeling the home, which kind of ends up with the elevations we have. So originally, the structure did not include a lot of these side windows on the side elevation here. So the applicant has added some additional windows to really help with the architecture. Part of this project, if you remember the pictures, it's kind of a 2-tone siding house right now. They are going to be completely re-siding, making a lot of improvements to the structure. So the staff feels that looking at the character of this area, the addition exceeding the 50% would not be outside of the character of what's already in the neighborhood for houses that have an attached garage. It would end up in a similar size from a square footage standpoint to those other structures. So with that, the staff is recommending approval of the request. The variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the addition is consistent with the architectural style and scale of the area. It should not adversely affect the structure's architectural design, neighborhood character, or curb appeal of the block.
Thank you, sir. Technical questions? Kathy?
You mentioned windows. We're talking only about a 50%.
Yes, they made some.
But the windows meet our standards?
The windows do meet standards. Their original request did not. We worked with the applicant and the homeowner, and they were happy to add the additional windows to make sure that it did meet our code requirements.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you for doing that. Makes life a lot easier. Other technical questions? All right, seeing none, anyone here from the audience to speak to this item today? Okay, back to the commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all right, let's call the roll.
Bowen.
Aye.
Holmes.
Aye.
Hens.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Weigert.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Borzak.
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Moving on to item number 8, final plat for the 3rd addition to Casey's Meadow South.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant's requesting approval of a final plat containing 20 single-family lots and right-of-way, identified as the 3rd addition to Casey's Meadow South. The 6.569 acre plat is zoned SR5, single-family residence district. Back in 2005, there was an overall preliminary plat containing, I believe it was 154 lots, simultaneously with the first final plat of 20 lots, and then in 2008, there was a 12-lot second edition approved and a 24-lot second edition approved in 2012. Here's the aerial photo of the site. Currently, it's undeveloped, surrounded by single-family uses to the north and east, dedicated parkland to the south, which is Rouge Park, and agricultural uses to the west. Comprehensive plan identifies this area suitable for residential, so we are consistent with the plan's recommendation. And here's a look at the plat itself. Zoom in a little bit to the actual plat. The subdivision is consistent with the previously approved preliminary plat that was approved in 2005. The original plat involved 41.05 acres and 105 lots. I was wrong there. 56 lots to date have been platted. All of the proposed lots meet the SR5 requirements for size and dimensional requirements. The lot configurations slightly differ from the preliminary plat, just some minor dimensional changes, but very, very minor, so there's no concerns with that. The proposed plat involves extensions of Casey Trail, Claude Jude Drive, and a new street that's to be named Wyatt Way. Temporary cul-de-sacs have been placed at the southwest ends of Casey's Trail and Wyatt Way. right here and right here. It's kind of like another step. Currently, there were temporary cul-de-sac bulbs placed here and over here for Clojute Drive, so it's just a continuation of those two streets. As far as parkland dedication, the developer has chosen to pay parkland dedication fees in lieu of dedication or land dedication, which would have totaled 22,000 square feet. The payment fee is $200 per lot at plat acceptance, and which will be $4,000 total, and then an additional $200 per lot will be collected at building permit issuance. Terrace street plan or street lighting plans have not been submitted. The developer will be working with the Department of Public Works, Forestry, and City Electrician to ensure the plans do not conflict with public or private utilities. The Department of Public Works has reviewed the plat and has no issues with the parcel configuration. The grading and drainage plan has been conditionally approved by the Department of Public Works and is currently going through the revision process. And the city is currently working with the developer to develop a developer's agreement for construction of the public infrastructure. The Oshkosh Fire and Police Departments, as well as the Oshkosh Area School District, have been notified of the request and have not expressed any concerns with being able to serve the additional housing units. So with that, staff is in support of approval of a final plat for the third edition of Casey's Meadows South with two conditions. One, a terrace street plan will be submitted and approved by the Forestry, Department of Community Development, and the Department of Community Development final plat acceptance by the city. And then a street lighting plan will be submitted and approved by the Electric Division and the Department of Public Works prior to final plat acceptance.
All right, thank you. Technical questions, anyone?
When did we become concerned with the lack of park land in this subdivision and the Roosevelt subdivision? And, there isn't really anything west of Oakwood besides the Sawyer Creek, but that really is not a park. It's just
Nature
a walkway.
area.
It's nature
Nature
trail.
area.
But there's no parkland at all that way. There's West Haven Park is the closest one in Newport. So when do we become concerned that we're just avoiding building any new parks in this area?
Well, I think there's definitely a concern. I think all of our plans show that there's a lack of parkland, especially in this particular area. The city's not gone to the extent yet of finding an area where it can actually map out some parks. But you're correct, but that's also part of the reason. I mean, we looked at this. Parks didn't feel that there was a need for in this subdivision when we started originally preliminary platted. We were going to accept the payment in lieu of to hopefully provide land so we can do some land acquisition for parks, but that that's one of those things that where we have to work with the Parks Department to map and acquire lands, and it's really one of those joint functions. We're having a joint workshop tomorrow. That should be one of those things that in the future we have a joint workshop to talk about that. I think we're concerned as well that we think there should be more land. Roost Park's a big park, but it's a lot of unusable area in that area.
I think the Traeger is more used for
Traeger.
as a park than.
Correct, definitely. We need
But
to map something
Jeff
out.
and Kathy?
Who starts that process, Darren? As far as looking at areas to start to map an area so that we have parks that are, in, appropriate distance apart and things. Who actually starts that process?
That really comes with the Advisory Parks Board, and they have a park plan that they're currently, I don't know if they're currently updating it in general, but they have a park plan that shows that there's a need. And what they do is they put a dot on a map and go, we're short in this area, and that's where we should start looking at where should we map. Years ago, I had laid out plans to map out an area just to the north here, but we never.
And the planning department, planning commission then does the mapping?
The planning commission would do the mapping.
Find
but
an area.
That really should be something that's done in concert with the Advisory Parks Board. We should be working together on that to identify these areas. I mean, I can also tell you that lately has been, as these projects have been coming through, it's the most parkland that I've seen dedicated as part of our approval process. You just saw something up in Bristol, you saw something down in Ripple, you saw, something else, I just saw something else come through somewhere. We're dedicating a lot of parkland lately, so it's something we've not done historically either.
There is I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There is a process in place now, or an attempt to develop a plan for the Sawyer Creek or Roosh, I don't know if you call it Roosh Park or whatever it's
Master
technically
plan.
called, but a master plan for that area. It is, a little ways away from the subdivision, but if that can get off the ground and get developed, to have more than
would
just a
make a big
trail, and Traeger's adjacent to that park as well, but, they're things that Traeger are, under the school district's authority, and they aren't being developed at all, so.
I guess I don't necessarily want to belabor it now, because that's not the point here, but the only thing is that we're approving all these little pockets of things. We talked about, the apartments over on 91st.
Yes.
And so we're approving all these little pockets of things around and not really planning for the other things to go with it. And that bothers me a little bit. And I know we've talked about it off and on for 10 years, and we're just not doing that. And because, the next one, we'll get another one that's here, and they'll pay the $4,000 instead of it, and then we'll get one over there, and they'll pay the $4,000 and not do it, and then all of a sudden, we don't have any land left, and we got no park.
The difficulty is actually doing the mapping, is getting the mapping done, and then you gotta pay for it, then you gotta pay for the lands to establish the park. And we all sat through a lot of official mapping sessions, and we all know
Map the road.
what that process is like. There should be some mapping going on in this particular area in the near future. But I think we should be more aggressive, but I think that we should be doing that, we should talk to the Advisory Parks Board, some type of joint format.
Especially in your high development areas.
Yeah, fortunately, we still have a lot of undeveloped land in this area. Just to the north of this area, there's a lot of undeveloped lands where you could spot map a park up there. You just don't want to mess up the entire development pattern while you're doing it, so there's that balance.
Kathy and then David?
Well, I was about to say something about parks when you mentioned it. It's my stomping horse. You'll be hearing from me tomorrow night on the subject of parks. But,
Good.
You'll be sorry. No. But anyway, I was struck also by the abysmally low, I'm going to call it, park dedication fee. That this $200 a lot, $4,000 total, that's nothing. I don't think we can
Not gonna
buy
buy-
much
not
at
gonna
all
buy
for
much land with that.
$4,000.
No.
Make it
And,
$10,000 a lot.
So, and I know we've had, I think we've had that standard for years.
Yes.
And so that's one problem. But another problem is also that, sad to say, the city has not taken on parks as a high priority. Parks has been a low priority in the city budget. And, maybe we can maintain stuff, but we don't have enough money to buy anything, and I think that's sad. It's pathetic. So, you're right, we can't, in this context of this subdivision, it makes sense, because there's no, one spot to put a park. But in the context of the area,
I agree.
you've got to get moving.
Agree. I mean, the one thing about our fee itself, though, it is lower, but it's not an impact fee. So we don't raise to the level of an impact fee at this point. We've talked about doing an impact fee over the years. That requires an extensive study to be done. We just haven't got there yet. I think it's something that we as a community should look at some point down the line. When I get the go-ahead to do that, yeah, we can do that. But right now, I mean, you got to remember, there was a time when they took away our ability to do that. So, a lot of these plats got in under the wire where we couldn't require that payment in lieu of. So, all depends on what's happening at the state. But I think, Kathy, you're right. I think it's something we should do.
David?
To Kathy's point, and also Jeff's on and off, that late, for many years, it's been off. And really the preferred was not property, but was the dollars. And so it was a point of view. If the point of view has changed, and I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it, but I think then that whether it's in concert or that the Parks Advisory Board are the ones that are going to have to come to us and give us some kind of
Yeah, I would agree.
of vision or focus or where the ideal thing is, and then to work that in harmony with the adjacent property owners and developers. But I would think that the initiator's got to be the parks, and of course the philosophy of really of the elected governance of the community.
Well put. Other technical questions, Ed?
Just one purely technical question, just out of curiosity, when we do final plat approvals, would it be possible to have the preliminary plat that we previously approved added to our packet?
We were just having that conversation, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would have made any difference on this one. Maybe it would have helped a little bit with the first one, but this
Hardly.
one we approved in 2012.
This is a while ago.
So I mean, we haven't really looked at this or thought about it for 5 years now. It might not hurt to have that.
Not all of us keep everything we get and keep it handy so we can.
Well, we have a big
years
fund.
We don't put it on our binders like Karen does.
Right. Other technical questions? Seeing none, is anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Going once, twice, 3 times. Back to the commission.
Motion approved.
Any discussion on the motion? We've had plenty already. All right, let's call the roll.
Bowen,
Aye.
Helms,
Aye.
Hintz,
All right.
Cummings,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Borsec,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Moving on to our final item for the day, approval of a specific implementation plan amendment for placement of an electric vehicle charging station at 2415 West Town Avenue, right by Festival Food.
Thank you.
You bet, Jeff.
The applicant's requesting approval of SIP to allow the placement of a Tesla supercharging station within the existing Festival Foods parking lot located at 2415 West Town Avenue. The parcel's located at the southwest corner of West Town Avenue and North West Haven Drive, consisting of about just under 8 acres in size. The site was developed with a plan development in 2000 and one amendment in 2006 for a store addition. The property currently has an SMU PD, suburban mixed use, with a plan development overlay district zoning. And the 10 and 20-year comprehensive plan recommends this area suitable for commercial development. The aerial of the site, pretty much fully developed with the Festival Foods grocery store. This is their liquor store addition, what they got approval for in 2006. And the rest is pretty much paved surface for off-street parking, loading facilities, and trash dumpster locations. The applicant's not proposing any change of use or a change of the principal use, but it's requesting approval to install charging stations for Tesla electric vehicles. They're proposing to install them towards the northwest portion of the property along the periphery of Northwest West Haven Drive, just south of the northern row. Initially, they're proposing to provide six charging stations, utilizing existing stalls. And the stalls will be uniquely identified with signing stating that these stalls are going to be reserved for vehicle charging only. At this time, the charging stations are only compatible with Tesla electric vehicles. The vehicles are able to inform the drivers of charger locations and allows the owners to plan their trips accordingly. The stations can fully charge the vehicle in approximately 75 minutes, and the applicant states during that time the vehicle owners can visit walkable areas waiting for their car to charge. The stations are proposed to be available for use 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. Per the applicant's narrative, the charging stations do not emit any noise or hazardous pollutants. The station's transformer does produce minimal noise, but will not negatively impact the surrounding area. Initially, 6 charging stations are proposed. Up on the screen is a plan showing kind of a zoomed out site of where the stations will be located. Looking up, this is the kind of the existing conditions. If you ignore this row of trees here, the site currently contains some landscaping, and their plan indicates that 3 trees are going to need to be removed to accommodate the proposed charging station equipment. During staff review, we understand the need to remove these to accommodate their equipment, but we are recommending a condition that if the trees can't be repositioned or relocated, that 3 trees of similar species be relocated somewhere else on the Festival of Foods property. The equipment proposed, here's a close-up site plan of their equipment. The equipment includes 3 Tesla supercharger cabinets, which I believe are over here. 6 Tesla charging stations, which are located right behind the curb line of the parking lot. One switchgear assembly, which I believe is somewhere here, and utility transformer. All the equipment is shown to be placed within the green space between a public sidewalk and the parking lot curbing. The parking lot is the curb line of the parking lot is currently at the required 25-foot setback, meaning that the equipment will be placed within the setback area. The biggest encroachment to the setback is the utility transformer over on the north side of the area. It's shown to be placed with a 12-foot setback from the right-of-way line, while the switchgear assembly and supercharger cabinets are located 13.16 feet from the right-of-way. The charging stations are shown to be located immediately behind the curb line and probably extend about a foot or 2 into the setback area. These reduced setbacks require a base standard modification, which staff is in support of. The site, looking back at the overall site plan of the property, one more. It's almost 100% of their buildable area is developed, leaving no practical options for placement of this type of equipment without hampering the internal workings of the parking lot. And their proposed equipment is not unlike other public utility providers, which are allowed legally to place equipment within the setback area, such as Wisconsin Public Service and AT&T. Staff feels the encroachment of the equipment can be visually softened with intensive landscaping. And I'll get to that in a little while. As far as access and circulation to the site, no changes are proposed. Parking. The site currently has 363 off-street parking stalls, whereas 242 stalls are required by code. The loss of 6 stalls for festivals' general customers should not have a negative impact to the store's operations. As far as signage and lighting, I'm sorry. Each stall is going to be identified with a 1 foot by 1.5 foot parking sign. Not sure exactly which one, but it's to indicate that those stalls are reserved for vehicle charging. And then the stations themselves, that consist of 6 of these charging stations. And the plans show that these Tesla logos, corporate logos, will be illuminated with LED lighting. Landscaping, go back. Okay, the landscaping plan has been submitted, obviously. The main focus of landscaping is to screen the proposed charging station equipment from the public right-of-way. The initial concept submitted involved the construction of a 6-foot-tall solid wood fence to serve as a screen. However, a couple weeks later, the applicant revised their plans and designed an all-seasons vegetative screen. This is accomplished by placement of 11 6-foot-tall arborvitae. Their plant are designed are planned to be 6 foot tall at the time of planting, so they're good size and should screen the equipment fairly well. And in addition to the wall of arborvitae, they're proposing to have 24 shrubs flanking on both sides. Staff is of the opinion that the vegetative screen is more aesthetically pleasing than the fence option. And I believe I have a rendering of what the proposed, oh, I'm sorry. This is what the charging stations look like with their, or the associated signage for each stall. And then this next slide should be okay, that's a rendering of what the station will look like with the arborvitae hedgerow. They did not include the 2 shrub plantings on either side, but staff is pretty comfortable with the looks of that versus a solid wood fence. One item of concern, I zoomed in closer to the landscape plan, and staff does have concerns with the proximity of the arborvitae plantings in relation to some underground private utilities. I believe the T is for telecommunications of some kind. And looking at the proposed layout of the arborvitae, that they seem to be pretty close, and there's the potential that the arborvitae root systems could start to interfere with the underground utilities. So we are seeking a condition that the applicants verify that the private utilities is okay with the placement of the arborvitae and will not, create a future nuisance to their facilities. I was unable to find any easements for private utilities on the site, so I'm not saying that there isn't an easement, but I was just unable to locate one. Stormwater management, the Department of Public Works reviewed the request and stated the project will not have any impact on the site's existing stormwater facilities. And with that, staff is in support of the specific implementation plan and plan development amendment with 4 conditions. One, a base standard modification to allow the placement of utility equipment not less than 12 feet from the right-of-way line of Northwest Haven Drive, where 25 is required. The trees that are identified to be removed shall be replaced with same or similar species on the site as approved by the Department of Community Development. A total of 8 charging stations may be constructed, 6 with the initial phase and 2 additional stations as needed. And lastly, verification that the location of the proposed vegetative screen will not interfere with existing private underground utilities.
All right, thank you, sir. Technical questions, Jeffrey?
Jeff, can you advise what the reasoning behind the 25-foot setback is?
Just to, yeah, it's,
I know it's a normal setback,
mhm.
but my point is what's the reasoning by it? Was it a safety
Probably.
issue from a standpoint of having utility? This is high voltage.
well, it's combination of various things. We're trying to get away from the seas of asphalt and trying to provide more green space and cuts down on total impervious surface. And like you said, that 25-foot strip helps give some stacking ability or additional stacking ability for cars exiting sites. So that's
So
kind of a clear
it's
area.
not necessarily a safety concern for whatever the utility is from a right-of-way. And I'd be, did
No,
you talk
there's-
to fire to see if they had any issue? This is a high-voltage transformer. Because
There's
I
other
remember
ones.
right, I thought
mhm.
yeah, Tesla was 240 volt. I don't remember in their super charging station. So I guess why are we okay with 12 feet when we require 25 for any kind of utility? And my concern is somewhat as a safety issue.
I mentioned before, WPS, AT&T, they're allowed to place their utilities in setback areas, so.
Setback is really to control the bulk, it's a bulk standard to keep buildings, we wanted to have some green space so the buildings weren't tight up against the sidewalk. That's really what it's there for, is provide the additional green space and.
So it's not what this is stating. So it's not the placement of utility equipment. is not
The
required
structure.
in 25, it's the structure.
Yeah, those charging stations, those are considered, those are considered a structure, so we have a structural setback. applied.
All right, did
Yeah.
fire weigh in on this at all, or safety?
Yep.
They're,
They're invited to all of
When
our
I-
meetings, they get all the notices.
I know they're invited, did they weigh in at all?
In April,
They
when I
weigh in if they're concerned, I can
Silence
tell you that.
happening.
Yeah, okay.
In April, when they first met with the Tesla's consultants, they were looking at placing them on West Town adjacent to, I believe WPS has two big transformers within the setback area up here. They wanted to initially put them all together, and they were questioning why would they have to screen theirs where WPS doesn't need to screen theirs. So at least, so at least we.
Really
It's a really good question.
We'd love to
So
answer that too.
at least we have the ability to require screening of these
All
structures.
right,
Other technical questions? Ed?
One, I guess, question, and for the record, I'm gonna vote president on this, but the one thing, this is more of a general question, is when we have sort of specialized things like this where we require screening, where we, say you can take these trees out over here and put them back over here, and you'll still meet the numbers and things like that. In the event that, and I don't wanna describe this as a temporary structure by any means, it's certainly not the intention of any of the parties here, but let's say these types of things like ATMs, things like that are subject to maybe like lease agreements, that sort of stuff, license agreements. When those uses terminate, is there anything within our code that requires that landscaping to then revert back to, you know what I'm saying?
The
Like,
original
this is
approved
gonna look
plan?
really funny if
there's
the
nothing there.
supercharging things aren't
Yeah.
here. So generally speaking, within our code, I guess, is there anything that requires
You'd have to put a condition on.
once we've made that? And again, I'm voting present on this, so I'm not gonna.
No, we're modifying right now we'd be modifying the original landscape plan because they're removing those two trees, so you'd have to have a condition in there some type of condition to restore if the use ceases, terminates, that you'd have to restore the original approved the original landscape plan, something like that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm just more curious in general for uses like.
No, you're
this.
correct.
Is there anything, maybe that's something to look at in the code down the road, something like that.
You drive around this city now,
Which you won't hear.
you'll find a number of sites, you're like, what the heck is that doing there? It's probably because of just what you said.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause other technical questions? Seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Going once, going twice? Okay, back to the commission.
Before we approve it, I was wondering if, Ed brings up a good point. Can we put that as a condition? Because, I mean, if they do pull that out, they don't necessarily have to remove that transformer box. You can just leave it there, because we have nothing that says that they have to move it back to an original state.
David?
Screening is still, on one hand, the screening is still there.
Right.
I think it's the bigger question. I think that the restitution question is bigger than this, and the screening is still gonna stay. But I would second it anyways, so that we can, if we want to amend it.
So it's been moved and seconded? All right.
But I do have just an observation, and I heard that this is not a universal plug, and I would hope that someplace along the line that we would, the manufacturers, which is certainly beyond our control, would develop a universal plug-in so that.
Well, when I-
Lobbying Elon Musk, Oshkosh Plan Commission.
Tell that to Apple and the iPod.
He's probably watching.
No, when I met with the consultant,
different
it's
plugs
not
for
it's not by default of Tesla. Tesla has opened up their designs to other car companies, so if other car companies adapted to Tesla's plug-in, they're more than welcome to, and they'd be able to use these charging stations.
I understand the arrogance of the auto manufacturer.
It's been moved and seconded, and I heard, go ahead, Kathy.
I just want to make a comment. I think this is a great place for the Tesla charging stations. Perfect. And I just wish we could buy a Tesla that we could charge.
David will do that on our behalf. and,
I will.
and use the charging
Change to
system.
universal charging system.
On my 90th anniversary on the plan.
He'll still be on the commission in 20 years. when
Any
they tear
other,
it down.
any other discussion before we vote? All right, let's vote.
Bowen,
Present.
Jones,
Aye.
Ince,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Borsuk,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried, 801.
All right. Question about tomorrow then. Who from the city is going to be there to sort of coordinate this?
Alan's gonna be moderating.
Okay, good.
Oh, good.
Somebody is. Okay, good. All right,
And Mark will be there.
David?
And I don't know if we could, do we know what the format is, or can't you recall?
We mean format.
Will there be
We have-
structure?
Well, we have an agenda.
Okay.
We've given you an agenda. There'll be a
All right.
presentation, there'll be board.
They're gonna rely on
There'll be
David's
discussion,
expertise.
there'll be public input. So,
Will you
yeah.
send me the
So
agenda?
Alan's prepared to,
Public.
you guys are prepared to manage this
Yeah,
process?
we'll be there.
Kathy,
Motion to adjourn.
Well,
too late. Kathy?
too late.
No, no, too late.
This is
right?
on this point.
Yeah.
But there will not be public input.
Yes, there will.
There will. That's changed.
Has nobody looked at my agenda that I've sent out?
No.
So I looked at
Where,
it.
where was it?
I sent you, did we send out an agenda?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
We have a
sent out-
notice.
When?
got
A notice, but not an
No, we
agenda.
haven't
You and
had
I
it.
had this
Yeah,
discussion.
no, and we've
An
changed,
agenda
we've
after
had that
that.
discussion and I've
There-
changed since then.
There's 4 items on the agenda.
Yes.
There was 4 items on
Okay.
it.
I'll
Yeah,
look
and
again.
one
I
of
read
them, and one of them is
I'll look
public
again.
input. It's public
Okay.
input.
Must be
Yeah.
Televised?
Yeah.
That's good. That'll reduce
Yep,
frustration.
Yep, no, I heard you, so,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
Darren, is this
It's on the-
televised?
On the email.
that I don't know. It's at the convention
We
center.
can ask
It's all
him
been
when we're
part-
finished.
Is it a public?
It's a
Yes.
public meeting.
It would be televised.
No.
No, no, no.
We have workshops all the time.
We're televised here because we have these things above us.
We will be recording,
but
will not be live.
Oh, there you go, see.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Recorded,
Scott.
but-
There you
Thanks,
go.
God.
Thank
You do good work.
Questions,
All right.
answers?
It is only gonna last till 7.
Motion had been
Motion,
made.
motion to adjourn.
So moved. I
Second.
moved already.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, I don't get the.
Favor, against it? No? Okay, we're done.
See you tomorrow.
Yes.
So there was an agenda.
Yes, yeah, Kathy.